Anthony Yarde has come closer to greatness than many people admit. The real question is whether his world title failures reveal his limitations or simply the level of opposition he faced. Kovalev, Beterbiev, and the Benavidez fights tell a story of courage, quality, development, and the brutal reality of elite boxing. So let's put our cards on the table and let's explore this. So the first statement is Yarde's Kovalev performance showed he belonged at world level. It's important to acknowledge a few things here. Kovalev was a champion. He was the champion. But was Kovalev past his prime? Yes, perhaps. But he was still dangerous. He still had power, a good jab, world-class jab. And he had experience. Of course, it was not the same Kovalev that fought Jean Pascal, not the same Kovalev that was knocking people out with jabs to the body. But it was a dangerous Kovalev, and it was a very dangerous fight. And Anthony Yarde fought hard, and he very nearly got a stoppage. I think that fight cemented his credentials as someone credible, operating at a high level. Definitely. And the next statement is Yarde pushed Beterbiev harder than many expected. Some important context for this statement. Beterbiev at the time was a monster. People did not compete with Beterbiev. He destroyed people. He didn't beat boxers. He beat them and took their souls. He was a devastating puncher. He could generate power just with short punches. So he would shorten the punches, but they would still have devastating effects. Yarde had a very good performance against Beterbiev. He was brave, courageous, but effective at times. Very effective at times. He got Beterbiev's attention. He got Beterbiev's respect. It was, at times, very competitive. A war. Anthony Yarde bared his soul. He deserves a lot of respect. And he showed good ring IQ as well as speed, power, and accuracy. So the next statement is his performance against champions proved genuine quality. When you look at Kovalev and when you look at Beterbiev, you see high-credentialed individuals. Kovalev slightly past his prime, but still really good jab, power, championship experience. That was a very hard task. And Anthony Yarde did a great job. Even though he lost, he gained credibility in losing. Beterbiev, I would argue, was more in his prime. And he was a devastating puncher. He was ferocious. And Anthony Yarde competed. And he had moments. So I agree with the premise. Anthony Yarde has shown credentials and he has shown genuine quality in those fights. So the next statement is that Benavidez dominated Yarde. He dominated Yarde unlike previous opponents, and Benavidez may simply be an elite fighter. There's two phases to that question or that statement. That Yarde was dominated and that Benavidez may simply be an elite level fighter. From my perspective, watching the fight, Anthony Yarde was dominated. However, everyone has been dominated by Benavidez at the time of writing, so to speak, figuratively speaking. So that premise is true, but we have to put that premise in context. Is Benavidez simply an elite level fighter? I believe he is an elite level fighter, and that level of eliteness has yet to be determined. Also, Benavidez's confidence is growing exponentially. He's on a run. I don't know if Anthony Yarde fought the wrong fight, but he fought the wrong fighter at the wrong time. So the next statement is that critics believe that technical flaws limited Yarde's success. I think it's so easy to say that boxers have flaws, and it may be more correct to say that boxers have different styles. Anthony Yarde has a style. So is it a flaw Or did he not implement his style effectively? I think language is important, and it's important that we get the language correct. For example, the low left hand. If you have a low left hand, but great movement, the movement negates the offense. So therefore, having a low left hand isn't necessarily a mistake. And lots of great fighters have a low left hand. Think of Muhammad Ali, Lennox Lewis, etc. So I'm not sure if that narrative bias is true. And the next statement is Tunde deserves credit for developing Yarde into a contender. Definitely. I think there's this underlying thing of let's attack Tunde. I've seen that in the internet world. Is that fair? I don't think it is fair. I just think it's easy. I just think it's lazy. Remember, don't undermine British level. Don't undermine European level. Don't undermine being a contender. These are hard things to establish. Boxing is a hard sport. And like I said, Tunde has a style and he has a boxing environment. And there's nothing that suggests that he is not a good trainer. He is a good trainer. He's done a good job. And I think it's unfair that he gets so much criticism. And like I said, it's intellectually lazy. And yes, you can criticize someone, but also acknowledge the good. I think it's easy just to be negative. I often think of the term constructive criticism. Acknowledge the good, but also acknowledge how things can be improved. So here are my final observations. Think of this. Anthony Yarde has done well under the guidance of Tunde. But Yarde needs to make adjustments. If he is going to compete in the sport and operate at elite level, he needs to make adjustments. Adaptation needs to be worked on. Strategy needs to be worked on. And he needs to become the best version of himself. From my perspective, I wish him all the best. And hopefully another successful chapter is on the way. So that's the end of the video. Now I'm trying to build a digital boxing community. That means I'm interested in your comments, I'm interested in your questions, and I'm interested in your observations. Now, if you want to support the channel, simply like and subscribe and click the hype button. And if you want to watch more content like this, then simply click here or click here. As always, thanks for your time. It is much appreciated.